What if the universe didn't begin with a bang, but with an unimaginable silence? Before light, before sound, before even thought, there was an emptiness so profound it holds the secret to everything. Join us as we explore the transformative power hidden within this sacred void, a stillness beyond all knowing that you've likely never considered. Imagine a canvas so wide no eye can measure it, stretched across a horizon that doesn't yet exist. No stars, no dust, no time keeping score. Just a fathomless quiet, vast, uncolored, unhurried. Not the silence that follows noise, but the silence that precedes it. Not the hush of a paused song, but the intimacy of a song that has not yet been born. Ancient wisdom whispered it plainly. Before form was, there was only the unmanifest. Call it the unseen, the hidden, the veil behind all veils. It is the womb of reality, not empty as in lacking, but empty as in brimming with unexpressed life. Like a seed that looks inert until it breaks open and writes forests into the world. Pause here, on that edge where language hesitates. What does nothing truly feel like? Not the loneliness we confuse with emptiness, not the boredom we mistake for quiet. Feel instead the density of unspoken meaning, the way a closed book carries 1,000 chapters underneath a single cover. This is the preface to existence, the hush before the first syllable of let there be. If you could stand in the center of that absolute stillness, you would notice something strange. It is not indifferent. It's not the void we fear when the mind runs out of answers. It is a compassionate spaciousness, the original hospitality. The kind of vastness that makes room for every possibility without clinging to any. It is the room in which worlds rehearse their entrances. We are taught to worship sound, trumpets of creation, drums of thunder, the fireworks of beginnings. But listen closer, all those spectacles borrow their meaning from silence. Without the silent expanse, the first light has nowhere to bloom. Without the pause, the note can't find its pitch. Without the unseen stage, the actors of matter and energy cannot perform. The Genesis of Nothingness is not a tale of absence. It is a testimony of pure potential, the purest there is. The unmanifest is not a lack. It is the surplus that hasn't made up its mind which bloom to become. And in that undecided generosity lies the mystery that calls to us across every era. The secret of how things emerge from what has no edges. We speak of beginning as if it were an explosion. Perhaps it was an opening so still, so surrendered that everything could pour through it without resistance. An opening that did not stamp its name on the future, did not insist on a form, did not bargain for guarantees. The silence beyond all knowing is the first, yes, vast and include every answer, humble enough to impose none. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence that allows sound to be. This is the first misunderstanding we must release. The quiet does not oppose the symphony. It dignifies it. The pause between heartbeats is not antagonistic to life. It is the interval that makes rhythm possible. The space between words does not interrupt the sentence. It gives language its shape. Modern science, reaching with careful hands into the smallest corners, found something curiously familiar to our oldest myths. A trembling ground beneath the ground. Quantum foam. Fluctuations that never truly settle. A zero-point field buzzing where we'd expect nothing. It is as if the universe hides a soft hum beneath our noisy certainties, a backdrop of restless generosity, offering particles and realities the chance to flicker into form and slip away again, as if practicing creation until it commits. You do not need a microscope to sense it. Stand in a room after everyone has left, and feel the furniture still holding the warmth of conversation. Walk through a city at dawn and hear, beneath the birds and the street sweepers, a deeper murmur, a city remembering itself before it wakes. Sit by the ocean at night and notice how the waves become translators. You hear through them a more ancient language, the sea rehearsing birth, the shore listening like a patient witness. This is the universal hum, layered under our alarms and headlines, patient as gravity, merciful as shade. We often confuse loud with true. We chase the biggest signal, the brightest flash, the sharpest argument. But truth has a quieter gait, the most faithful realities. Love, trust, meaning, rarely shout. They are the steady hum beneath the noise, not the fireworks above it. They are the unrecorded kindness, the unadvertised loyalty, the vow that doesn't trend but never breaks. In the same way, the primal silence is not competing with the spectacle of existence. It is hosting it. Listen long enough, and you notice a pattern. Every crescendo bows to quiet. Storms empty themselves and surrender the sky. Applause fades and the room remembers its still air. Even the mind, after sprinting in circles, meets its own breath and softens. Emptiness is not defeat, it is completion. It is the open palm after the gift has been given, the clean page after the poem, the night that forgives the day for burning so brightly. The echoes of emptiness teach us a humility that liberates. The background matters. The foundation, though rarely praised, is faithful, and the silence beyond all knowing is the most faithful of all. It carried the first light. It will cradle the last. It is the patient witness and the generous host, the ground that does not collapse when we do. Why call the void fertile? Because every wonder you've known grew out of a moment that didn't insist on itself. The greatest cathedrals began as rooms cleared of clutter. The most luminous ideas arrived when the mind finally stopped rehearsing old lines. The heart's deepest recognitions appeared when argument grew tired and yielded its seat. Creation myths remembered this and hid the truth in symbols we could carry. The egg of Brahma, a universe cradled in a shell, unbroken, immaculate, waiting, so delicate, so whole, so perfectly undecided. Ginnungagap, the Norse gap between fires of Muspelheim and ices of Niflheim, pregnant space where opposites negotiate existence. Even when traditions disagree about gods and empires, they converge in reverence for the in-between, the open, unclaimed interval where miracles decide to enter. Awe is born when certainty stretches and something unnameable walks through. Stand beneath a night sky unpolluted by lamps, and let your mind grow quiet enough to be tutored by distance. Is it not true that before you count the stars, a hush enters? Is it not true that before you attach a story, the sheer fact of it undoes you? That undoing is sacred. In it, the small self loosens its grip, and the vast self remembers its home address. Think back to your own life, the breakthrough you still call accident, the clarity that felt like a window unlatching, the forgiveness that arrived when you stopped arguing with the past. Each of these moments wore the badge of the unmanifest. They did not arrive by force. They walked in because you made room, perhaps without even meaning to, by letting the noise exhaust itself. The void is not a vacuum that erases. It is a studio that curates. It removes what is not needed until what is timeless can be seen. It is the architect of awe because it arranges the scene so that wonder can breathe. Like a wise teacher, it does not crowd the lesson. It trusts the lesson to awaken you when the room is ready. Awe, then, is not a fireworks show. It is a bow to the order that doesn't announce itself, to the mercy that hides in ordinary days, to the stagehand who never steps into the spotlight and yet moves the world from behind the curtain. The architect of awe doesn't claim credit. It grants permission. For truth to be obvious, for beauty to be inevitable, for meaning to be discovered rather than manufactured. There is a stillness inside you that predates your first memory. It did not arrive with your name, and it will not leave when your titles change. It is older than your victories and kinder than your failures. It lives in the unlit rooms of your being, steady as an ancient star, present as the space in your chest, when you exhale and forget to fill the void with commentary. This inner stillness is not an idea to admire. It is a presence to belong to. You don't have to construct it. You cannot buy it. You can only recognize it. And remembering is its own return. When attention stops auditioning for applause, when the inner narrator gets tired of insisting, when the heart's gates swing open for no reason, there it is, waiting, patient as ever. The same hospitality that held galaxies before they had names is holding you from the inside. In that recognition, challenges begin to rearrange, not because the world becomes obedient to your wishes, but because you become obedient to what is real. The frantic mind loses its monopoly on interpretation. Pain is still pain. Grief is still grief. But they are not tyrants. They are weather, and weather passes. The stillness within, it does not argue with storms. It accompanies them. It does not deny the heat. It offers shade. When you remain near that inner silence, anger remembers its innocence, its wish to protect what is loved. Fear remembers its intelligence, its wish to guard what is precious. Even ambition remembers its humility. It was never about proving worth. It was about building something worthy. The noise becomes readable. The signal beneath it enduring. Lucid beckons to guide. People often ask, where does confidence come from? They expect a strategy. The truer answer is proximity. The stillness within you is invulnerable, not because it is hard or numb, but because it is vast. You cannot insult the ocean by throwing a stone at it. You cannot embarrass the sky. When identity rests in the wider thing, slights lose their teeth. You don't become indifferent. You become free. And creativity. The mind is a magnificent instrument, but it plays best when tuned to a deeper pitch. Lean into the unmoving center and the chords return in harmonies you forgot existed. Ideas arrive not as invaders, but as guests. Solutions stop shouting and start introducing themselves. The inner room grows spacious, and in that space meaning can assemble itself without being bullied. To approach this is simple, though never trivial. Honor what is unhurried. Treat quiet like an elder. Lay down your arsenal of explanations and let a few questions remain unanswered, as a lake remains untroubled when it keeps its surface calm. There is strength in not performing. There is authority in not rushing to fix what a moment of stillness would soothe. There is power in letting what is true declare itself without your micromanagement. The unseen power within is not a trick. It is your inheritance. When you remember it, you stop begging the world to confirm who you are. You carry your coordinates inside you, and the world, relieved of the burden to endorse you, becomes a place to serve rather than a courtroom to argue in. How do you carry the cathedral of quiet into the market's roar? Not by escaping life, but by expanding your definition of it. The great silence does not live only on mountaintops. It breathes in kitchens where tea cools beside unpaid bills. It waits in traffic. Yes, even there, between the sigh and the next song. It lingers in doorways when families forgive one another without speeches. It sits in offices where someone chooses kindness over a clever comeback. It is not a retreat from the world. It is the room you bring with you into the world. In time, this companionship alters the way you move. You stop bargaining with noise to feel alive. You stop auditioning for rooms that don't know how to applaud you. You stop measuring your days by how loud they were. Instead, you measure them by how true you remained, how faithfully you listened for the hum beneath events. Productivity becomes a rhythm rather than a panic. Rest becomes a vow rather than a reward. Relationships become sanctuaries rather than stages. The long-term harvest is quiet but abundant. Creativity no longer comes in fits, it arrives like a season. Resilience is not gritted teeth, it is flexible roots. Inner peace is not a vacation spot, it is a citizenship. You do not float above pain, you walk through it differently. You do not refuse ambition, you serve a deeper aim. You do not renounce speech. You allow silence to edit your words so that what remains is clean and needed. And perhaps most importantly, you begin to recognize the same stillness in others. In the restless friend whose laughter is an armor, in the rival whose forcefulness is a prayer for safety, in the stranger whose silence is not indifference but reverence. Seeing this, your judgments become briefer and your mercy grows long. The world feels less like a contest and more like a shared apprenticeship. We are, all of us, learning to listen beneath ourselves. This is the invitation at the heart of tonight's journey. Find not somewhere far away. Not after you become someone else, but here, the silence beyond all knowing, the beginning before the beginning, the room that remains when the story ends, and begins again, and ends again, and never runs out of grace. Trust that this silence is not empty of God, purpose, or meaning. It is full of them in a way speech cannot carry. Trust that it is not a denial of life, but its original permission. Stand at the threshold with a gentle courage. Let the spectacle do what it will. Let the noise keep its calendar. You have discovered the stagehand who moves galaxies. You have felt the compassion of a space that refuses to abandon you. You have seen how the unmanifest holds your life like a patient gardener, holds a sapling, not squeezing, not neglecting, simply trusting what it is made to become. When the credits roll and the day folds its costumes, listen for the hum. Thank the background. Bow to the architect of awe. And if anyone asks you where your power comes from, you can offer them the simplest of truths. It comes from a silence older than light, kinder than certainty, and nearer than your next breath. The silence that asked nothing of you to love you and gave you everything before you knew how to ask. The universe did not begin with noise. It began with room. When you honor that room within, you don't escape life, you unlock it. And in that unlocking, you remember who you were before the world told you who to be. A child of the great silence, carrying the first dawn wherever you go.